Councilmember Sundberg online, joining us remotely from out of town. Welcome back to the first meeting of the year. We do have the Sentinel with us this morning, and Max is here to write really nice articles about Aurora Police and Fire. He really loves Aurora Police and Fire. Sentinel. Just so you all know, I'm gonna put that out there. I really do love Max.
I was wondering what Max's face was saying.
My typical shenanigans, right?
Oh, fair enough.
All right, approval of the minutes, Councilmember Sundberg, do you have anything? Do you approve the minutes?
Changes to the minutes.
We can't hear you. The computer. All right, thumbs up. Consent items, there's nothing that I want to pull off consent. Councilmember Sundberg? All right, we're gonna hold it.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, general business, for a photo speed enforcement program update.
Say Chris Evans.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Chris Amsler from the Aurora Police Traffic Section. I took over command of this section back in September, so Jurinsky Bennett is my predecessor, so he's here, so maybe he can help me with any questions that might arise that I don't know. So I'm here to give a quick recap of or an update on our photo enforcement program. First, I'm just going to give a quick recap of the program. So in response to fatal crashes and complaints about speeding, we implemented a pilot program that started in July of 2023. It's a 13-month pilot program. The first month of July was warnings that were issued, and then the second month.
Thank you, Matt.
And then the second month was actual, we started issuing violations and citations. The program is aimed to make neighborhood streets safer through targeted speed enforcement. We also use this program to address complaints that we receive from community members and also complaints that council members receive from community members to address some of those so that we don't have to deploy resources such as our MET team. We can actually employ the photo enforcement van to capture speed violations and use our MET and traffic resources in areas where we're having high crash accidents. We are restricted on where we can deploy our speed vans. We can deploy them in residential neighborhoods with speed limits of 35 miles per hour or less, school zones, construction zones, or streets that border a municipal park. There have been recent changes in legislation that do allow the city to implement what we call a speed enforcement photo zone, where we can actually designate a section of roadway where we do have a lot of accidents and complaints, where we could actually designate that roadway as a place where that we can set up the van where speed limits are higher than 35. State law also caps our fines. We can only fine $40 on a normal residential street, but if in a school zone, we can fine up to $80. Violations of 25 miles an hour or more over the speed limit are considered a traffic offense. And so we actually follow up by sending a police officer out to issue a citation into municipal court. We are currently using Conduit as our program vendor. And as I stated, our trial program will end August 14th of 2024. Our current stats, we've had approximately 362 violations that our vans have captured. 1,128 violation notices have been mailed. 876 violations are still in process. And what we consider in process is there's two review processes. Process by Conduit, and then there's also a process by our photo enforcement supervisor. And the first part of that process is Conduit checks to see if there's a clear picture of the driver. Is there a clear picture of the driver's license? Do we have clear pictures of the vehicle actually moving past the van to show that the vehicle is moving? Then it's sent on to our staff, and then they review to make sure that we've met all of those standards, kind of a checks and balances system. We've had 2,358 rejected violations, and violations that get rejected are not a clear picture of the driver, not a clear picture of a license plate, a listing of the license plate doesn't come back from DMV, an emergency vehicle that may be running through that intersection, that location with lights and siren. Those are all reasons why violations could get rejected. There's also some user error issues that have arisen that can also result in unrejected violations. And according to Conduit, those are trending down. And we've had 26 high-speed violations. Again, those are 25 miles per hour or higher. Our staffing, we're authorized 1 photo enforcement supervisor and 6 photo enforcement technicians. And if we're at full staff, we should be deployed 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Currently, this is where we're having our biggest issue with the program is with staffing. I have 1 photo enforcement supervisor who has done an exceptional job and who's been with the program since its beginning. However, she has actually been given a conditional job offer with the city to be a community service representative. So we're actually going to lose her. And she's allowed me to disclose that one of the reasons she likes what she's doing, but one of the reasons that she's leaving is because this is just a contracted employee and position, and that there's no guarantee that her position will be there in 6 months when the pilot program is over. So what we're going to do so that there is no hiccup in the program and to keep continuity is we're having a sworn officer from the traffic section that we have just trained up on all the administrative duties that our supervisor has been doing, who will take over that position for the remainder of the pilot program. And then if we decide to keep this program, we will then hire a non-sworn position for that, non-sworn person for that position. We're authorized 6 photo enforcement technicians. 3 would work during the day, 3 would work during the night. Right now, I have 2 technicians. They're working days. One is currently in a testing process for another position with the city. So we could possibly losing her, which would leave us with 2 technicians, one on day shift and one that is actually going to be starting on the 16th. Next slide, you'll see there's a variety of reasons where we've lost applicants. We've only had a total of 65 since its inception, but we do have 13 applicants that are pending for future positions that we have. So some of the hiring that we've done is through August and September, we were able to only interview 3 folks. We gave 3 job offers, 2 were disqualified during the background process. And then one of the technicians that we had just recently resigned on the 29th to accept a full-time paying position in the private sector. October, we interviewed 3, gave 2 job offers, 1 withdrew, and then one of the folks is the one that's going to be starting on the 16th of this month. November, 3 interviews scheduled, only 1 got interviewed, and then they withdrew to take another full-time job. And then again, currently we have 13 applications that are pending review. On the next slide, we have the cost and revenue breakdown of where we're at. So revenue received, that's the money that we have generated from the citations, payment from citations. Expenses are employee costs and then also the cost of the vans. So you'll notice we have a very large payment in November of 2017. That's because we received the first 3-month invoices of August, September, and October in November. So that's why that number is much larger. So if you look down at the bottom, the numbers in red, those are the numbers of what the city has paid out for each of those months, and the grand total is $861,000. So currently what we do pay is $400,000 per month for the 3 vans that we use. Next steps for us to help with recruiting, we're collaborating with the recruiting unit, making sure that our recruiters know that, hey, we have these positions open, and that if people approach you and they don't want to be police officers, but they want other positions with the police department, that these are opportunities for them to get their foot in the door. Also been collaborating with the Human Resources Department about getting some folks that are testing to become police officers that might not have passed the physical agility phase, and be like, hey, here's here's an opportunity for you to start working for the police department before, you can test again. And then also pushing out more messaging with our public information office and the city communications department. Are there any questions?
More of a concern. This seems like an epic failure to me if we're upside down $350,000 on this program and the 2,400 rejections for not getting a clear picture or, whatever. Seems to me like we need to focus on our Met unit and having officers on the road. And seeing what I just saw, I'm not sure I'm interested in even continuing the pilot program after, this initial period. That's my 2 cents on it. That's alarming to see.
I think,
Can you hear me?
two things like that, Madam Chair. One is if we got full staffing, problem that people want the job, it's just not a permanent position, right? So even though it has all benefits except retirement. So one of the things that we could try, since we're in the contract, I think through August, is maybe if the city manager agrees is to, when we hire these people, tell them that as long as you perform in a satisfactory manner, that we can find a similar, a position in the city with a similar pay and so forth. Because a lot of them have really good skill sets, like the supervisors going over to our non-sworn traffic units that are doing investigations, or we can transition them that I think would be able to actually fully staff. That's been one of the biggest challenges.
Oh, I hear that, Chief, but we rejected 6 people for lack of experience. What kind of experience do you need to sit in a van and have a camera? Go, please elaborate on that if the issue is staffing, but we're rejecting 6 people due to experience.
That could be, that's something HR that does the background on that. I wouldn't have that information.
Well, again, this program seems like an epic failure to me, and I would rather just see
Madam
more
Chairperson,
officers.
Chairperson, Madam, can you hear me okay?
I mean, being in the hole $350,000, that's an embarrassment. And if there's 2,400 rejections, that means this program is severely flawed, and all of those people are still getting away with speeding. That's what that means.
You could actually ask legal to see if there's a way to get out of the contract.
Well, yeah, so, Madam Chair, so looking at the contract, we have a year contract that we signed with the vendor. So the hole that we're talking about is a check that we're gonna have to write the vendor at the end of the term if we don't recoup that money. So, what I suggested to the PD and I'll suggest to the city is let's try to fund that as much as we can to take as much so we can reduce what the city's gonna have to be out. Now, if we're having issues with the cameras, I need that, legal's gonna need that documented so we can look at the, look at the contract, but at some point, if we can't staff the vans, to be able to for the company to be able to issue the citations, it's, we have costs and we're gonna owe the vendor, so. We have, is it until August?
14. Have you looked at it? I think I just asked you a day or two ago. Have you looked at that yet?
Yeah, so we looked at the contract, and what Pete is talking about is there's a clause in the contract about reasonable termination costs. We can terminate the contract at any time. It's just those monies would be owed based on their reliance on them getting that $80-something thousand per month that we're paying for the vans, as well as the fact that they actually gave us a break on the beginning because we weren't able to staff the full van. So they weren't charging us for part of that. So I don't think that they're going to be very amenable to giving us a break on the back end for those costs, since they've already done so on the front end as well. So I think we would ultimately end up owing probably the 1.08 million in total.
By August, if we stick with this
from the contractual terms.
So the plan is either let's try to make up that money by getting it fully staffed and having the vans out doing what they're doing, or if council gives us direction that, this was a council project, so I want to make sure that we follow council's direction. If you want us to try to get out of the contract to limit our losses, then we need direction to do that. Otherwise, we'll, the advice of the PD is get it staffed and see if we can pick up some of that money before the August contract is done. But as Megan said, we could be on the hook for $1 million if we can't get this thing staffed.
Hey, can you guys hear me? This is Councilmember Sundberg.
Chair.
No, go ahead.
So essentially, it's just under $119,000 a month, fully staffed, and the cost of the vans. And so we would need to have just say 2,200 paid violations in order to
Even.
to break even
In a month, 2,200
In a month.
violations.
for every month,
Hey,
paid.
Right.
And we actually have a pretty substantial rate of pay. So we're at about 70% in terms of the violations being mailed and actual, being paid.
Yeah,
Hey, can you guys hear me? This is Councilmember Sundberg. Can you hear me?
I mean.
Can you hear
The
me?
issue is staffing. Again, I can't seem to figure out what the qualifications would be to sit in a van all day. I just really can't wrap my brain around that. But I think that we should be looking at, all applicants. And quite frankly, maybe instead of putting our traffic officers, in this van, I would rather see we keep them on the road and senior leadership in the police department sit in this van. That's what I would rather see. You can work remotely with your laptop or whatever. I said that I would go sit in this van. I can work on emails all day long and just sit there. Again, I don't understand what the qualifications are for this position. But I think at this point, taking a $1.08 million loss would be uncalled for. That's my opinion. So I think the department really needs to decide, can we make this work? Can we make this work? Can we figure out how to internally staff this? I guess that's where I'm at. Cause I don't wanna take our traffic officers off the road when those, my guess is it's gonna be a lower percentage of a rejection rate of a Met guy pulling someone over for speeding than we're gonna get on these vans. So it makes no sense to me to take our traffic officers off the road and seat them in this van. That doesn't make sense to me.
no, I agree. But again, this is not our initiative. This is the council's initiative.
Yeah, so if
And-
it's not
and
gonna
there's
work,
another
then we need
piece that
to,
doesn't work with this is that it has the effect that we desire. Actually, people actually stop, they actually slow down. And so that when you have compliance, then what you have is people aren't speeding. And so I don't think we should keep this program. That's just me. We had that conversation at the back here. That's why this presentation's here. I don't think it's an effective program. And if we could get out of it and save money by getting out of it, we should do that. But if we can't, we should do our best to, like I just recommended to city managers, to actually incentivize by telling people, you're gonna have a job as long as you perform satisfactorily, a satisfactory manner, you'll be able to stay in the city in a social service position somewhere. So those are our, I think, that are options. So I would recommend, Madam Chair, that we find out from city
how to
legal
get out of it.
what the cost would
Yeah.
be to get out of it.
So I'm receiving more information, Madam Chair, that, so what the person in the van does is when the system signifies somebody is speeding, then they do the visual confirmation that they look at the car that's driving by. Okay, so again, I don't know what kind of special skills that you need, but it's more than just sitting in the van. I'm just.
Look.
Sitting and
I-
sitting and look,
Look.
sitting and look.
Correct, but the other thing is, Councilmember Sundberg, he's trying to talk and he's not coming through, so, Councilmember Sundberg, we can't hear you, I don't. Yeah.
Can you hear me, guys?
Do you wanna put something in the chat? I don't know if that's the other way to do it, I just wanna make sure that since we're in the open meeting, that you can communicate with us.
Can you hear me? I'm just waiting for people to stop talking. Can you hear me?
While he figures that out, I think we just wait for the information on how we can.
We understand the concerns. Let's dive into this this morning. We'll give you an update. Good news or bad news doesn't get better with time, so we want to make sure you guys had it, and then we'll figure out options going forward.
And well, one other thing, you mentioned volunteering. I mean, we should look at, there's a lot of citizens in this community, a lot of retirees in this community that may want to do it on a voluntary process. We may be able to do this program without having to hire anybody. I have to look at the legality of that.
I mean, it's
And
fine.
you said 6 people were not qualified for this job and the qualifications to look. So I don't know, are we gonna accept retirees? Their vision might be a little bad, I'm not sure.
They're driving.
I don't know.
I hope.
I mean, I'm happy to look at, volunteers in the meantime, if we can. I mean, I know that I can probably get a whole bunch of people together to go sit in the van, but starting with me.
We'll add that the potential options. We'll look.
I
at
hope I'm
understanding.
qualified, by the way.
Well, not if someone comes up to the van and starts trying to pound on the van, but that's. Stay in the van. Detail with you and lots of.
I've heard you have experience assisting 911, so we're gonna, all right.
We forgot our check along there.
All right.
We understand, we understand the correction. All right.
All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Item 4B, public safety action.
So, one is our, crime reduction, including staffing. So can we get up, we've got an academy starting next week. What's our numbers in terms of what we're expecting to start next week?
It's 20,
Okay.
28, it went
28.
till 29, but it's 28.
28, how many do we have to further? So we had some deferral for community. And then, what are the numbers currently in, the academy that we started in September?
We have. What was it? I think it's 30. Yeah, just a second, I've got it on.
I believe it's 28.
28, okay, so we had the 32 start, we're down to 28, okay.
Yeah. We've got 23-1B, started 10, currently 7, 23-2B, started 12, currently 9, those are the 4 civil serve, before Hancock took over. So the 23-3B started 33, current 29, and then 24-1B starting next week. 26 is currently expected, but we may have.
I think we've had more, yeah. So, okay. All right, so those are those numbers. We also list the in-service trainings that have been completed. Any other questions on that base?
On the academies.
Right, okay. On, the second section obviously is, being data-driven in looking at our crime stats. So, we've ended the year, our overall, we've seen generally crime come down across all categories. Obviously, it is still too high, but we are moving in the right direction.
I thought it hasn't come down on burglary and retail. I would just.
Retail theft.
Retail theft, yeah, go ahead.
We've been working really closely with business communities.
Yeah.
The fact that you all, council, again, took action to actually put some teeth into retail theft, the consequences, there's actually consequences in the city. Our retail partners actually calling the police, so actually wanting to prosecute. Because in the past, you've seen these videos, they tell their people to let people go. It's the cost of doing business because they're not gonna do anything. Well, we're always, just like we did with vehicle theft, thanks to the council, we are becoming an island of accountability. And they're reporting because now they feel like something's happening thanks to the council. So that's a good thing that it's, because if they don't report, if they don't prosecute, if there are no consequences, we just become very retarded. So I think that in the upcoming months, as we continue to prosecute and hold people accountable for retail theft in our city, the word's gonna get out, just like vehicle theft is down, I think it's up 23%. I'd have to look at it, the numbers.
Yes.
But it is just, it's exciting. And quite honestly, I think the credit goes to two groups, the men and women of the Aurora Police Department and the fact that they're back to doing proactive policing. Our proactive teams are just fighting crime. And the other piece is the council that actually gets it and understands that if we don't have consequences, we're not gonna have order. And in this city, we're fortunate that we have a council that has given us the tools to deal with this. Just like this year, I know dealing with some of our unhoused and some of those issues that create a lot of quality of life issues and big crime issues and those things. I know that's a priority for y'all. And we're looking forward to seeing our city stand out as, I think, a bastion of.
Yeah, so the retail theft ordinance was my ordinance personally, and I do plan on lowering that $300 threshold. So I don't care if you go to jail in this city over $50, you're going to jail.
Life's about consequences, and when people make poor choices or there are no consequences, then we can be assured they're going to keep targeting city job. But thank you.
Oh, and Madam
That's
Chair,
really the job.
and Madam Chair, the other thing is it's interesting, but our 2 years on the motor vehicle theft sunset provision is coming up in May. So we'll need to get that on the agenda. Just the council direction. I have a feeling you guys want to renew it. But
Yeah, well, so that's when
it's
the sunset provision.
coming up in June, so we'll need to get it. But I've got it on my radar to get with Mayor Pro Tem Zavonic and with you, Madam Chair, to make sure that we get it on the council agenda so we can renew that. That's council's wish.
Yeah, and I want to renew it with that lower threshold.
Okay, so we can do the retail theft as well at the same time.
Okay.
Okay.
And one other item with that, I'm sure for this year.
Yeah.
That, Mayor, and I know the council is, one of the biggest heartburns that our community has is people not paying their tags. They just don't pay their tag. They know we're not gonna chase them, we can't chase them. So we've asked city legal, to look at legislation. I think it's gonna take state legislation. I know the mayor's already talked to the governor about it, where when you're parked somewhere, guess what we're gonna do? Under certain circumstances, we're gonna come up and start scooping cars. So that's gonna be huge because those monies are.
This is on the expired registration where, we know you all hear about it every year.
So if we see a car sitting somewhere and has expired registration, we're just gonna tow it?
Yes, we did.
Within certain.
That's what we're gonna be pursuing.
It's a certain limitation. So if you don't mind,
Yeah,
Chief,
absolutely.
so I've been in contact with some of the legislators because they have been, I've been getting emails from my boss and from the mayor regarding expired tags. Everybody sees the expired tags. And what the issue is that it's a statewide concern by the legislature, so the municipal court doesn't have jurisdiction over the registrations. So what ends up happening, my understanding from talking with traffic, with the police department, they pull somebody over for speeding and they want to cut them a speeding ticket with their expired registration. They write them a speeding ticket in the muni court, but they're not going to turn around and write a citation. There's other legal issues that come into play if they try to write their expired registration in county court. And so it's a lot easier to write a citation in muni court than it is in county court. And so one of the things that we're talking to the legislature to do is to give the cities jurisdiction over registration. And there's a variety of things, right? The big thing I think that most people don't pay is because of the personal property tax. Make the dealers collect the first year property tax when they sell the vehicle, right, to a Colorado resident. So that's at least going to get those paper tags will at least get turned into a metal tag. Right. And then the other thing is try to maybe change the personal property tax to do it under the state income tax system where, because they can do payment plans in the state income tax system. Citizens can't do a payment plan when they do the registration. They got to pay it all at once. So that's kind of the works, but it is going to, as Chief said, it is going to take legislative action. But the good thing is we do have some legislators that are interested because they are hearing from their constituents as well. My advice would be is as we get into that, maybe a resolution from council voicing support for that would do a long way.
Yeah, I guess I would just have to hear more about that. You're not gonna believe this is gonna come out of my mouth, but just towing someone's car seems a bit extreme to me. I don't know. That seems a bit extreme. I know people that it's, the DMV has sent, the registration stickers late, there's people that go around and steal people's stickers off of their cars. So without physically contacting somebody and knowing that they don't have, their registration,
Right.
that just
You
seems.
get that through the DMV, through this computer system with the state. So, I mean, everything, all options on the table means we have to do it. There's a lot of, I think, tools we can get from the state to help us with that.
You have thoughts at the state level? We have to deal with it.
I think we're gonna get some movement there. And the other thing is if you stop somebody, if an officer stops somebody that they have two of the three, right? No driver's license, no insurance, expired registration, give the police the authority to tow the vehicle, right? Because
I agree more with that.
I think that's what,
Someone
That's something
walking
I-
into a store and, a cop goes by and sees their, and then they come out and their car's been towed.
well, if it's not a private property, they wouldn't be able to do it. It'd have to be on a public road.
Okay.
But that's I think that's where the legislature's going is if we want people having insurance, we want people having driver's licenses, we want them being registered. So that's kind of what's kind of being tossed at the legislature right now.
Well, driver's license, sure. I mean, that's like not so.
We don't have the ability right now to do it.
I know.
So.
Yeah.
All right, third section is on our youth violence prevention, so.
Oh, there you go. You're fine. All right, good morning. So we have a few things up here, in terms of just case management, ongoing referrals, those types of things. I did want to share just some updated data in terms of our NOFO grantees. So through November, we've served, or agencies rather, have served just under 3,800 youth. We've allocated just over $300,000 of the 575 that was approved. The most common ages of youth that we're serving are between 15 and 17 years old. And then there's just a few success stories. Just a quick one of our agencies, SOAR, seeing our adolescents rise. They were referred to, a youth was referred to their agency for mental health and mentoring services. As of December 18th, the youth is now engaged in both mental health and mentoring services. And the school has reported that their attendance has increased as well as their grades. So we're seeing a lot more of that engagement with youth in schools, which has been great through some of the programming that we've been able to work on. A couple other things to note. So with Aurora Save, so we've completed 30 custom notifications, and we're currently working, our case manager is currently working with 6 of those individuals for services. So we'll have a few more successes coming out of that in terms of the services that are being provided, those types of things through Aurora Save. We do have our first call-in scheduled January 31st of this month. So that's our group call-in where we bring those agencies together. There will be more information heading to you all as council for that, for those who want to attend to kind of see that, all of that stuff. But of course, you can reach out to me if you have questions on that. And then the last piece is we've got a youth summit scheduled for the last week of February. So in partnership with our school districts, faith-based organizations, nonprofits in the community, holding a youth summit for obviously our youth, but also the practitioners that work with youth. So those that are in schools, parents, guardians, and we're going to be having these on a quarterly rotating basis. So the next one will be tentatively the end of May, and we'll have a kind of mini job fair set up for that. So I know we've been working with Chief Acevedo a lot on ensuring that we get our youth engaged in some sort of summer employment programs. So that'll be the focus of part of the focus of these youth summits, is making sure we have those individuals there to potentially hire youth, those types of things. And then last but certainly not least, we've started our community engagement. I believe council received an email yesterday evening for our youth empowerment center. So that is live. So please share that. If anyone needs that link or wants that link, let me know. Please share that with youth, with anyone who works with youth, so we can really get that outreach, that engagement in terms of what we want this youth empowerment center to be as we get it rolling. So happy to take any questions.
Just so you know, one of our partners, a road called Straight, they've started reaching out to me directly to come in and speak to their kids. So
That's
I've taken
awesome.
that on.
That's great.
And I'm going there talking with these kids.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that. So and James Thomas with the Road Called Straight actually has been a huge partner with Aurora Save with our custom notifications, going door to door, speaking with these youth that we're speaking with as well, saying, kind of delivering his message as well. So that's great that you're working with them. So
Yeah, I wanted you to know that. I meant to actually tell you that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Questions on youth violence? Okay. On the fourth area is our clinicians and our mobile response and crisis response teams. So Courtney, any updates beyond what's here? We're highlighting this.
The only other updates is we're going to be hosting a community training series. Our targeted violence prevention program, as a part of their grant requirements, is to bring in subject matter experts from the area to educate the community on mass violence prevention. So we'll be working with the communications department and PIO office to advertise for those events. They will be entirely free, held here at the City of Aurora at the libraries. So that will be very exciting for us to get to partner with local prevention practitioners as well. And then additionally, we have been invited to 2 different federal law enforcement conferences to talk about our model because we are so well known within the space. So,
Yeah. I mean, you guys are doing a great job. I always think that we need to expand, that program.
So we're gonna get the numbers here. We're gonna be coming back doing a bit broader look back for the entire thing, talking about that plan for expansion. So, as you all know, we've got the numbers up here for one team. We've added an additional team in this year's budget. So we're working to continue to staff up our mobile response teams.
Oh, okay.
And so we have a kind of a multi-year plan to continue to expand this. So we'll be coming back and talking about that.
And are we able to support that on the police side? The second unit that we've Dr.
So on the mobile response teams, that's not police, so it's our crisis response team. So we have 5 teams on the crisis response teams. Those are all fully staffed, both on the clinician and the police side.
One opening for clinician, but that's because one CRT clinician moved to our AMRT spot, which now we have 2 AMRT vans up and running, which has been huge. But that one clinician, once she was licensed, moved to that AMRT too, but we already have that position posted and we've already gotten some applicants.
That part of it too with Courtney, she kind of runs, you heard, them as a team, right? Crisis response team, mobile response team, and that allows us some flexibility where, if they want to change the scenery, because those are different calls, we can do that. She can work with folks in terms of that. Just, it gives different opportunities. Courtney's doing a great job with this program. As you noted, we're getting really good outcomes. It's something we can definitely continue to expand on. And so we'll be back next month to talk to you guys with more in detail. That was a request you guys had last year. So
Just remind me, have we expanded this to the whole city or are we still just in District 1?
This is the entire city, so
Oh.
AMRT, the mobile response team, is now citywide, and now that we have those 2 vans, we do have some days of overlap, so it's much easier to get to all parts of the city, but yes, they do respond.
And that's one of the things we're going to talk to you about is not only geographic coverage, but also times a day, days. We still continue to have the ability to expand this into those. Now again, with Courtney and her team, they're trying to be very data driven in terms of the days of the week, times of the day that we're seeing the highest call volumes for calls that we think would benefit from these type of responses. So those are data that she's continuing to monitor. So we definitely have opportunities for expansion here. We'll continue to try to do it in a thoughtful progression, just because we want to sort of, make sure that we have good clinicians, we're maintaining the quality, and we're doing that, but there's definitely opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great program. So you have my full support.
Thank you. And I do want to add that UC Health has been a phenomenal partner. They are still providing some match funding for us, which offsets that cost significantly, which has allowed us to expand in the way that we have for this 2024 year with the mobile response team.
Yeah.
And then finally, on our 5th is our homeless encampments. And so, thank you, Emma.
Hello, good morning. I'm just hiding back here. Well, you can see the numbers we have up there. Those are pretty typical for our monthly numbers and how many notifications we're receiving and how many abatements we're able to do. Same with the CDOT. Those are all pretty typical. Let's see. I just have a couple updates though. With the extreme cold weather today through this weekend, we do have the Aurora Cold Weather Outreach Team activated starting tonight through Sunday evening. So PD has been an amazing partner, as well as fire rescue, going out and doing that life-saving check-in with folks on the streets during that. So they'll be driving around starting tonight through the whole weekend. And let's see, we have the annual point in time count happening Tuesday, January 23rd. That starts at 6 a.m. And the point in time count is the annual HUD mandated count of all people experiencing homelessness, unsheltered and sheltered, on one night in Aurora. And this helps us just determine the scope of homelessness so we can better plan and make critical responses. So that's happening. We've got a lot of volunteers and we're ready to go.
We think we know where a lot of those sites we need to visit are, but if you all, in your work with your wards and just, the community, if you have areas that you're like, oh, make sure you go to this area, please let Emma and her team know. We'll make sure we get out there. We want to count those folks. We have as accurate as possible accounts. I know you guys hear a lot about that, and so we will add that to our list.
Yeah. Last year, I joined Keeson and the PD to do some abatements in the winter. And we showed up to Ward 4, it was Horseshoe Park, I believe it was at Horseshoe Park. And they had just removed a dead body. The man froze to death. What I was told was that he was contacted and refused to go anywhere. And he died, he froze to death. I mean, I understand, being a free American, but is there anything, is there anything we can do to?
Unfortunately, yeah, folks are able to say no to that life-saving service. We go out there and we really try to convince them, and we give them some supplies. We try to make sure that if they're not equipped, that we give them like some warmer supplies, hand warmers, and we really, really try to encourage them. But outside of that, we can't force them.
Yeah, what about though, because what we found in this abatement, we had to abate this man's camp. They had just like removed his body. And so we had to abate his camp. And it was found, a safety issue. You know, they try to start these fires. So at that point, can we, if they're doing something unsafe like that, can we, I mean, I would at least like rather put them a night in our jail than them freeze to death in our parks. I mean, this was sad for me to witness.
You know, I can imagine, and I'll tell you from a legal perspective, Emma's team is doing exactly what the law allows, and I'll use something that Chief Otten says, it's a free country, people have the right to make bad decisions.
Yeah, and I agree.
I know,
I agree,
It's
this was-
heartbreaking, but there's nothing that, I mean, if they refuse services, we can't force them to, if they commit a crime, then we can make the decision
Well,
about whether.
that's what I'm wondering about these open fires and, I mean, some of it was very unsafe, like could have set the whole park on fire. I guess that's what I'm wondering. I don't think their intention is to lay out there and freeze to death, but it clearly happened. So they're trying to start these fires, and it was really unsafe. So I was just thinking maybe at that point, we can say, you know what, this isn't legal. You have to go, at least sleep in jail and not die tonight.
It's just a fire and there's no damage to property, that it's not an arrestable offense. If there's arson, there's different levels of arson, but that's hard to, in those camps. So I know Emma and the PD teams, right? You look for that if you can, but.
So fires are addressed in the camping ordinance and they can be deemed an emergency abatement if there's a fire. But fire usually has to come out and determine that if there is a risk to something else, as Pete is saying. There are times when we will do an emergency abatement if there's a fire that's out in an open space area or in a highly congested area. But if someone is just making the choice, they might feel good at the beginning of the night and then, you
They
know,
go to sleep. and
there's
they
a certain
freeze.
substance that wears off and then,
Yeah.
you know, they
Yeah.
don't realize how cold they are, so.
So I'll also say, even if we do an emergency abatement, they still can say no.
Yeah, I know,
Like,
I
so
mean,
that won't change their answer
Yeah,
necessarily.
I know.
I mean, it might, because we're telling them they can't stay there, but.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, this man's body was hauled off and we had to clean up his camp, so. I guess, let the record show that they are denying services and, you know, if they die out there, we.
I
Done
think
right,
we kind of document it on those really cold nights in terms of when we make that contact, or do we just, at least in our notes in terms of when somebody's refused, transport.
We document everyone we make contact with. And if they go with us or if they stay, what supplies we give them, we document all of that.
Yeah.
Essentially a refusal to with us.
Yeah.
That's urgent. Again, I'm not, it's unfortunate. It is like, as your note, it's perfectly sad.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the end of this item. Before we move on to the next item, I just want to note, Councilmember Sundberg had put in there his notes, and I think his notes from reading it there was just noting that obviously we've had significant 65 traffic related deaths in the city, as was noted here earlier. Obviously, you all hear a lot about speeding complaints, and that was the intent of this program, was to try and address traffic safety, address those complaints you're hearing. The chief did note that, part of the what we're seeing potentially in some of the tickets is, perhaps the program is being effective in slowing folks down. So as we kind of look at options, we'll try and, capture some of that as well as to how effective we think it is, and, in terms of that, because there's also the other side of that is folks do what we ask and slow them down, then we're not issuing tickets. So we need to look at that.
And Councilmember Sundberg also sent a direct message for me to stop being such a Debbie Downer. So back to you, Councilmember Sundberg, I say you will sit in the van next to me. That's what I say to you, and I love that you can't talk about it.
Stop making me the controversy.
You're gonna make it this way every month.
Yeah,
Okay, I see a pattern.
Virtual and silent.
Can you bring up the chat?
Okay. Okay, so if there's nothing else on 4B, 4C, this is just something I like to do every year. I know you've committed all of last year's actions to memory, but we do like to put it in one place. All the agenda items for Councilmember Hancock, kind of use that as a quick look back. If if you have any questions on that, we're always happy to revisit any of those items or provide follow-up for those. This is just a discussion item. If you all have any questions or direction on last year's items for that. And then the last item is just another item for discussion for you all for direction. You have all of your key public safety and courts staff here. If there are any items that you want to kind of put us on notice for in terms of a work plan, or if you want to hear from any of your appointees or key public safety leaders, they can kind of tell you the things that they know might be coming up and give you a heads up on. So this is just a discussion item for you, Madam Chair.
Well, super courts, how are we doing on police officers coming to court?
We probably should have given you that update. So this is the one where, yes, we have, we successfully piloted the electronic check-in for our, it was a very good partnership with the court administrator. That's been very successful. We've rolled that out live now for everybody. So I've heard that that's been very successful. I've not heard issues with that, but I'm gonna look around folks. Oh, Julie, thank you.
Yeah, that is working well for the police department and for us getting people in on juries. Of course, in January, we started the vertical prosecution, so that's new and it's changed a little bit, just where things start, but we've worked closely with the police and that seems to be working well.
And our folks are really happy about that. It's just, you know, sitting in the parking lot waiting, so I want to thank you and everybody that helped that.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's that update. And I think on the other piece we talked about was evidence, you know, for our officers over at when they're dropping somebody off at detention. Yeah, we've got lockers over there now. I think we've got that process underway. I don't know if we're up and running on it yet. There was a couple things we had to do. We actually have to get camera network set up on everything else, but I think we're well on the way, if not already live on that. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Candace, but I don't know if you'd have it off the top of your head now.
Don't think we're live yet that I'm aware of, but I can check again.
Okay.
But making progress is the last time I heard. We had the lockers ordered. We were working again on the camera system, just the documentation, everything we need to do for that. So that's another one that you had talked about last.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, those two are what I really want to see happen. Perfect. I don't have, do you have any questions about courts or anything?
I was talking to Judge Dave about Ben's court, that's the thing.
Oh, yeah, we have that coming.
Program.
If you're okay, we can just go around to certainly all your appointees and then just your principals, just to see if they've got anything, just give you all some heads up in terms of if they know that there's things they're gonna be bringing forward, just to kind of put it on your radar, so.
Yeah, I want to hear from 911 and fire, but real quick, under miscellaneous matters for consideration, it's come to my attention that as far as council security, in our meetings, that it's a little burdensome for our SWAT guys. They're being called out quite a bit, you know, during the day and during the week and stuff like that. So for them to, and there's no guarantee on how late our meetings are gonna go, anything like that. So the request is for Sergeant Giroth and Officer Krieger to stay a part of council security, and just maybe kind of turn it over to Sergeant Giroth, however you guys want to do it, but to maybe find a couple different officers that aren't on the SWAT team that would like to join council security, because it sounds like it's just becoming way too much for our SWAT guys. They're already working.
I think, yeah.
So they can, yeah, they don't have
They
to.
don't have to work it. Nobody's, that's
Okay.
voluntary, so.
Yeah,
Maybe they don't know that. I don't know. It just came to my nerves.
it's overtime for them, so.
Because I tease them about, you know.
We certainly,
They know it's wrong.
Well, one of the though is that we don't have just random assignments, that we have specific a set group of people that know what's happening, know what they're supposed to be
For sure.
doing.
Yeah.
And so that full, we're working on making that a larger.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I would like to see consistency, you know, with officers, but, okay, yeah, maybe just let them know that they don't have to do it. 911.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we have had a very exciting 23 and launching into 24, there's a number of things that you will see come across your desk. Number one, we are almost fully staffed, and so we are currently recruiting for what we would refer to as an overhire academy. And so that will allow us to begin focusing on cross-training. It takes a lot of time to get people fully trained and certified to then ultimately become police and fire dispatchers. And so we will be putting a lot of effort into that process once we have really robustly gotten our staffing ahead of us. We want to get ahead of attrition so that we're not trying to catch up. And then we have a number of large projects that are underway. Number one, we're launching the EPD preparation process for police. And so that is a very detailed and drawn out process, but we want to do it right. So you'll see some purchasing things come across in consent, and we'll keep you updated on that. But through that, we're going to be able to assist the police department in creating that tiered response model that is similar to what Chief Otten has done with the fire department. And it will also allow us to open pathways for more references to AMRT on the police and fire side as well. So we're going to create a system that automatically will identify those resources as the most appropriate and will hopefully create some efficiency. And then additionally, and this is what I'm most excited about, is we will be replacing our call handling system. We won't go into technological detail, but what we're going to bring in is but it's a cloud native environment that will allow us to resolve all of the issues that have gotten in the way of our answer times. So all of the technological things that are currently overwhelm us, this technology will address that and prevent it from happening. And then it's also going to solve the accessibility issue with language barriers. So we're going to have a lot of automatic voice and text translation, transcription, that will allow us to connect with someone in their native language to identify the issue and get resources deployed to their location. And we will also be able to introduce outbound messaging and voice to all of our residents as well. So there's a lot going on, but ultimately what it's going to do for us is meet people where they are, expedite the way that we can provide help to everyone, and then systemize and make it standardized and more efficient for our field responders so that their workload is making more sense and more efficient to them as well. So there's a lot going on.
That sounds
We're
amazing.
all excited, yes.
Yeah, and legitimately, I did have to call 911 yesterday morning, whoever that dispatcher was, she was great. I was a little panicked, I thought there was a dead body right in front of me, and she was great, so. It was great.
All voice on the other side is.
Now the man was dead.
Councilman,
I just had to remain calm. I just was like, well, I got a little panicked when she asked me to check if the man had a pulse. I didn't know that's not happening. It's not happening. So anyway, she was fabulous. Fire, do you have anything?
We appreciate all your business. So.
Responsive. Now, I call that, I'm a frequent flyer.
You're on the list. You're on the list.
Our strategic approach is to have less calls from you, council member, and I think that'll be a significant reduction. Just a couple fire updates. Obviously, December was a crazy month for the fire department and really for the community. I mean, our police partners as well. So the Colfax and Peoria fire is wrapping up the investigative phase, and probably by the end of this week or middle of next week, it'll be turned over to the developer for the rest of the demolition. We did get a message from them that they intend to come back and start over and rebuild that. Really just tragic, a lot of housing units that went away as a result of that.
Between the two fires again, chief?
I don't have an actual, but our estimate is somewhere around 220 million. So a combination of the two fires, that one, the Colfax Peoria and the Addison Court. And it's obviously significant fire loss for this community, but that number can actually move the needle on the nation's statistics. So it's rare that happens.
Does it look like we're thinking it's arson
or? We are investigating the Addison one right now as a criminal act. We don't have any indication that the Colfax event was. But, you know, obviously you can't close that out until they've completed the investigation. So just want to be clear that right now we don't have any indication that it is, but they're still wrapping up their investigation. So, but significant loss we've been giving, Amanda Wright from our fire marshal's office has been giving weekly updates now to the mayor just on the road closures, because I know that's one of the biggest inconveniences for folks around there. But we had the building evaluated by one of the ATF's forensic structural engineers, and they had significant concerns about the concrete and brick walls, the way they were leaning, and that creating a hazard in the community. So they're systematically taking it apart now, and hopefully we'll be done with our piece by the end of this week or middle of next week and can hand it over to the developer, and then they'll be responsible for all of it from there on. So 2024 goal is not to have $220 million in fire costs.
And just to, again, for the public record, the developer's been great. They worked very closely with fire. They worked very closely with ATF. They worked very closely with our building division. So all those folks who work closely, we know it's inconvenient for the public. We hear about it frequently on the road closures, but you know, the reason for the road closures is we've got a 6-story structure there. And there's a worry that obviously if that were to, it's not stable. We're keeping the roadway, and we had traveling public there. That would be, we can't solve that. It's a safety issue, which is why we've done that. We are working as diligently but thoroughly as possible to sort of, again, as the chief said, just, you know, take that down. Once we get that down below a certain height and that hazard's not there, we'll reopen. We understand.
And it's to the extent that they're using, I'm sorry, Mr. Manager, but they're using unstaffed, they're using remote excavators and things like that.
That's how dangerous
that's the risk associated with. So, so unless you have any questions on that, right response update has been very, very successful. Thank you to 911, thank you to our police partners. But it's been going on for a little over 10 weeks now. They've processed over 9,323 calls through that system or calls while that system's been in place. And it's resulted in a 34% reduction which exceeded our expectations in low acuity responses from our heavy units, so engines and ladder trucks. And I've heard commentary, some people describing it as life-changing. We're looking at how that data translates into our overall departmental response times, and then the frequency with which a second or third duty unit has to come into somebody else's area to cover a high acuity call. And Brandon Souter's pulling some of that information.
The intent of the whole program is not to not provide a response. It's a lot of that is around, we want to keep our firefighting apparatuses available for higher acuity calls. And that's the piece the easy piece is, hey, how many less calls are we going on? The harder piece now is to talk about, okay, what's that second order effect of, okay, now how much, you know, more availability do they have for, you know, the heart attack, for the high acuity calls?
So we're anticipating a reduction in overall aggregate response times for the department, and we just need to dig into that. And those response times go up if a primary unit is occupied and a secondary or tertiary unit has to come into that district. That drives all of the departmental response times up. And so it decreases reliability. You have to wait longer when you're calling with the, you know, the medical, you have to wait a little bit longer.
I don't, no, I'm being serious. No, it's a, you know, and unfortunately, you're not alone in that, right? Our community have these incidents, they come on them, and, you know, we need, for high acuity calls, we want to have the right units available.
So the next phase of that, 2024, is going to include upgrade responses to high acuity calls, as well as looking at a risk-based approach to our fire responses. And so I think I shared this example, but as an example, right now we send the same structural response to a drive-through Starbucks that we do to a 1 million square foot Amazon warehouse. And so they're very different risk profiles and have a lot of different critical tasks that need to be done. So we're going to be working on that as phase 3. So phase 2 is the high acuity, phase 3 is the fire-based response, and our partners at 911 have been fantastic to work with, and so we definitely appreciate them. As far as EMS updates, we promoted the Commander Souter, sitting over there quietly in the corner. He is now overseeing our community medical services branch. He sent out a solicitation for a captain to come into that office to join him from the uniform standpoint, and has posted the EMS program manager position. And the recruitment closes tomorrow. Okay. So we hope to fill that position. We're still working on the advanced clinical educator, that position, we're working with HR to get the pay right so that we can recruit the right person for that. So that's moving along. I know we talked about reestablishing that branch last year, and that is moving along. So just an update on that. We did get new SCBAs, and those are going to be rolling out in 2024. So that's pretty exciting. The self-contained breathing apparatus, or the air packs that they wear, ours were beyond the number of revisions or additions that you can add to them. And so we really appreciate the support to get those out there. Those are really important. And then in 2024, we anticipate 2 recruit academies. One will start February 5th, hopefully with 35 people in it. And then we will have a summer academy that will account for any attrition. So we're pretty excited about that. And that's really the major updates, highlights that I've got for you, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
I don't know. That's all. I'm curious to hear if that one fire is arson. I just want to hear about that. Yeah. Other than that, does anybody else in the room have anything they want to share, anything they want to update us on? Go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair, Councilwoman. Just an update on the consent decree. We are coming up in about a month at our 2-year mark on the consent decree, and we've had a couple meetings with the monitor over the last couple months. Big great strides on all facets of the consent decree over the last year. The last thing that I think PD has to get done is the racial bias policy and training. Once that's done, we should be able to enter into the 3-year monitoring period, where we're trying to establish benchmarks on what that's going to look like, based off numbers, right? We've been collecting data over the last 2 years that has been able to show what really the police department and the fire department are doing. And it is really showing kind of what we had expected a couple of years ago, is that we're making progress in all the issues that were brought up in the patterns of practice report from the AG's office. So good news is I think we're going to be on time, if not a little bit late, maybe March or April, of entering into that 3-year time period. And I want to applaud the fire chief and the police department and the police chief for really stepping up this last year and getting what we needed done. I mean, you can feel just from an outsider's perspective, you can feel the change, and it's good.
I add something. Just yesterday, our FRB, which I don't think we've been the one that we're open to get you there. We had the Department of Homeland Security from
Me with Councilmember Coombs, that wasn't gonna work out.
yeah, we'll get you in. Really proud of the fact, yesterday we had the Department of Homeland Security sent the Inspector General's office 2 individuals from headquarters. They've been going all over the country at all levels of government, looking into how agencies reduce force. And Jeff Ranger, our monitor, was there, and their response and their comments were they have not seen anything even close to what this department's put together in the last couple of years.
Max, are you listening? Max?
I don't know why, but Jeff, Schlanger, where FRB been around for a couple of years, where it was at, where it's gone in the last year, it's a national model. I have a feeling we're gonna start getting a lot of visitors to look at that. So I hope that a new public safety member will also come out here and look at one, and especially time when we have a real complex case, so you can see it was great to see Jeff Slanger actually kind of beaming about the comments that were made about it.
Yeah, and I'm very appreciative of the latest report that came out. Max, it's auroramonitor.org. If you want to check out the reports that just came out from the National Policing Institute, which is the gold standard of policing in the country. Wonderful report. It is out for public review. Anything else?
Nothing from that regard.
All right. You want to bring up? Just listening today, so this is good. Just remembering. All right. Okay. I have a feeling she'll get feistier. Year goes on.
I have no doubt.
I expect her to surpass me at some point. Don't do that.
That's not possible.
It could be. It might be. Could be. With that, our next meeting is February 8th at 9 a.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Sorry.
I wasn't here and no one else was sitting there.
Yeah, I just, you have.